Welcome to Mind Over Splatter, episode 1. We're going to be talking about slasher movies, so let's have some fun with this. Specifically, I thought it'd be cool if we each came up with a list of our top 10 favorite slasher movies and counted up from the bottom, and just compare notes on which ones we like the best and maybe argue about it a little bit. So my name's Dylan. I'm here drinking a nice Oval hopped lager. We also have Sheldon. Hey, Sheldon.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
I'm drinking a nice hopped wheat ale. I went in and out of so many, and I kept on switching around, and there's some I left out that I kind of wish I didn't.
Yeah, no, I hear you. William, how you doing?
I am doing swell. And I'm drinking a Winnipeg-based Little Brown Jug.
Nice. Okay, so we each have our top 10 slasher lists prepared. We have not shared them with each other. We've kept them a secret up until now. A couple ground rules. I haven't really strictly defined slasher movie. We all have a pretty good idea of what that means. The only kind of goalposts I set out was that we're talking about movies that are in English, so American movies, or they can be Canadian movies, Australian movies. Basically threw that rule on there to exclude Italian giallo movies, just because I think we shouldn't mix the two categories. I think it's two different artistic traditions, and if we're going to be talking about Italian giallo movies, we should do that on another show separately. So we're talking about English language slasher movies, and I said from the 1970s until the current day. Pretty vague there, but basically saying that Psycho, Peeping Tom don't count. These are movies that inspired slasher movies, but aren't slasher movies in and of themselves. Within those goalposts, you can work with the I know it when I see it kind of general rule. So we're going to start at number 10. We're going to work our way up. Slight drinking rule in effect. If somebody else mentions a movie that you think is a particularly good selection, take a big appreciative swig of your beer. Otherwise, drink at your own pace.
I was just going to say, I never knew how to say that Italian word until right now.
I didn't until very recently. I've been taking Italian on Duolingo.
Oh, what do you mean?
Yeah, which I don't want to do. It's a stupid language, but we get a lot of guests at the hotel I work who are Italian, and they never speak English or French. So I figured I should learn some of the basics. I was always saying giallo, assuming the double L is like a Y sound, like it is in French, like it is in Spanish. Turns out, according to the little green owl, it's giallo. Do you mind if I go first?
No, you go first. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we all like slasher movies. There's a lot of reasons why they're really awesome. They're just fun as shit. You just have a good time watching them. I also really like that slasher movies have these strict rules. I think there's probably no subgenre that is so strict in terms of what has to happen. There's certain elements that have to be there in order to satisfy the requirements of the genre. I think that's really cool. It's kind of an invitation for creativity for filmmakers who have this kind of the framing device that they can bounce around within, get kind of quantum jitters as the space that they have to work in gets smaller and smaller. I also think it's cool because it makes it feel like slasher movies are kind of a myth. There's this story that's very similar that gets told again and again, and it doesn't necessarily have a clear meaning. It's like the meaning is in the locked box of the story that gets passed on from filmmaker to filmmaker, the way that myths were. A lot of the elements that make slasher movies were kind of teased apart in a book from 1992 called Men, Women, and Chainsaws by Carol J. Clover, which is kind of an important work in understanding them. She coined the term final girl, for example, which is the term used for somebody like Jamie Lee Curtis at the end of Halloween. And really codified a lot of what makes these movies what they are. That kind of paved the way for postmodern ironizing to come in and colonize the slasher myth, which we get in a big way with Scream, script written by Kevin Williamson. That kind of coolly ironizes and flattens the mythic elements in a slasher movie. I don't like Scream that much, personally. Because of that, I guess I prefer the movies that get down on the reeds with the myth instead of kind of looking down their nose at it, standing above it. I don't really like the postmodern invasion of a genre that feels so mythic, but I do like Scream 3. So my number 10 is Scream 3. I know it's not the most popular Scream movie, but I liked that in this movie, I kind of feel like for the first time, this kind of postmodern meta-narrative thing that you have in all the Scream movies is kind of weaponized to a stronger end. The main character, Sidney Prescott, her bedroom is replicated as a film set. At one point, the Ghostface slasher chases her through this replica of her own bedroom, which has just been subtly changed by the production of the movie. There's also a subplot about a sexual assault, which is in Hollywood, which becomes kind of ironic because Harvey Weinstein produced the movie, and it works as a Me Too movie before Me Too. Lots of movies have sleazy producer characters, but I think this one is kind of on another level because it has these meta-narrative elements that has a traumatized character who has to kind of run through this recreation of her own past. And I just think it's kind of deep, and it kind of redeems the postmodern meta-narrative structures of the first two Scream movies, which I don't like, by using them in a way that actually digs into the character and explores her trauma in the way that it has changed the story that other people are telling about her and the story that she tells about herself. So I think it's actually an interesting movie. It's hardly a great movie. Nobody's going to mistake Scream 3 for a great movie. There's a lot of kind of jokes that don't hit in it. There's awkward cameos by like Carrie Fisher and
Jane Silent
Bob. Yeah, exactly. Jane Silent Bob show up at one point. Yeah, some of it is kind of borderline cringe. But I just appreciate that it uses meta-narrative elements for something good instead of what I see as the evil of the kind of cool and condescending flattening that you get in the first Scream movie.
Very nice.
I was anticipating a bit of pushback on Scream 3. What do you guys think about this?
So Scream is definitely it's one of my favorite slasher series.
Yeah.
But the third one is, for me, the worst one. Like, if I watch Screams 1 through 4, I usually skip 3. I just think it's the worst one. I don't find it good at all. Like, I think, from what I remember reading or hearing, they went through a shitload of studio bullshit that, like, changed the script around and...
Yes, which gets satirized in the movie inevitably, right? There's a scene where pages of the script, which are actually being written by the killer, are being faxed out, and somebody is killed by going to get the latest script revisions or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't hate it. It's my least favorite Scream.
This is the only Scream movie that's going to appear in my list. I'll say that right off if I haven't already made it clear. And the thing is, I actually like Kevin Williamson as a writer who wrote all the Scream movies except for 3. But he writes good characters. He writes great snappy dialogue. Kevin Williamson wrote Dawson's Creek as well for any Dawson's Creek fans out there. He's one of the great 90s writers, like extremely 90s, loves those pop culture references and stuff, but also has a lot of sensitivity to characters. So I totally get liking Scream for those things. I actually kind of prefer the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, which are also written by Kevin Williamson, but where he didn't make them completely swamped with references and winking and just kind of did straight slasher movies.
It's funny because Scream, the whole series to me, I cannot help but lump into a lot of other films that were coming out at that time, and a lot of it has to do with the age I was. It was as a teenager, I couldn't help but think that that's someone else's movie. Like, it's someone else's series. My horror films are in the 70s and 80s. This is for, like, oh, they made something for teens today. And even though that's not quite right for Scream, like, it's true for so many other films then. But it's the reason I avoided anything that had pretty people on the cover. I never watched The Faculty. I avoided I Know What You Did Last Summer and all those. But I went through the whole Scream series. It's not one that I would necessarily re-watch much, but I enjoyed every single one. Even the latest iterations I thought were, like, I thought it maintained a level of interest throughout. I enjoyed each one on their own, and it's just funny because I know I completely and utterly recognize their importance in the genre, but it was one that I purposely kind of stepped away. There was always those posters that had people standing in like a diagonal row on them,
Right.
and it's
All of
always
them.
just everyone with their smoldering best expressions, their smoldering mien on each of those, and I just was immediately turned away. It's like, give me a monster. I'll just rewatch Chud.
Why don't we move on to you next, Sheldon?
Me?
Yeah. So give us your number 10.
Okay, my number 10 is Sleepaway Camp, the first one.
I'm taking a big sip right here.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So the series as a whole is fucking awful. Like number 2 and 3 are almost unwatchable. But number 1 is so great. So this movie, what year was this?
83, I believe.
So after the Friday 13th and all that bullshit. Obviously the ending, which is amazing. We all know how it ends, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe let's avoid the spoilers for anybody listening who doesn't.
Yeah. A lot of people haven't seen this movie.
Mhm.
So it's easy to find a friend to watch with, and it makes it so much more enjoyable, like, every time. So that's one thing I really like about this, is just finding new people to watch it with, just to see the reaction at the end of the movie.
Yeah, one of the all-time great endings for sure. And everybody who sees that movie has that ending graven in their mind for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Most of my movies on my list have like one really good kill that like sells it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be pretty much listing off one from each of these movies.
So what's the one from Sleepaway Camp?
This one is it's shot and they show a shadow of it happening. They don't actually show this kill happening. It's where the killer grabs a hot curling iron and jams it up the girl's vagina. Do you remember this?
Yes, this happens
Yeah.
to Judy, who the magnificently bitchy princess girl, who I absolutely love. I adore this girl. She's amazing. This actress is so good. The way she's got her like huge hair and her super slow bitchy delivery is so on point.
So yeah, that's basically why I put this at number 10. No higher because it is really cheaply done.
That could be a
your
benefit
average
sometimes.
slasher with a really good ending.
It's got a really distinctive look too. Like, I mean, it's set at a summer camp, so where a lot of the Friday the 13th and stuff. I've never seen that many like tight t-shirts and short shorts and like and baseball caps.
I can watch this over and over again and enjoy it almost every time, especially if there's someone to watch with who hasn't seen it. Then you get that shock.
I've seen it more than once too, and it benefits rewatching. I think because when it's with the kind of movie when you know the twist at the end, you start noticing things throughout the movie. There's some color coding stuff that's going on in the movie too, where the color is red and blue in some scenes. I think there's quite a bit of thought that went into staging it. I think it's a really good movie.
Very nice. Yeah, that's one that I was eyeballing, but I honestly didn't put it on my list because I played the odds. I knew it was going to show up on one of these lists. And it was going to get talked about. So, yeah, it's a very fine choice.
All right, you're up, Will.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your fine choice?
I'm absolutely somersaulting out of the gate here. With number 10, I chose Leprechaun in the Hood.
Oh, Christ.
That one, because there is something magical. I love titles that just stop me in my tracks.
Totally.
And Leprechaun in the Hood was something that I saw at a friend's place. It was like one of those like late night, you're a teenager, you're just tired, you're just kind of dead scrolling through television, and we saw Leprechaun in the Hood. Our brains couldn't accept that this was a thing and that it managed to manifest without our knowledge. And so we watched the entire thing. We could not have been more awake in that moment. And it was something like I had a similar effect when I saw what is still my favorite movie title, The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. Just because that combo of words I find to just be poetry. But Leprechaun in the Hood was magic. And it's incredibly cheap. You can see the sets. There's points where you can actually see where the set ends at the top when the camera moves. It's clearly built on like a very small sound studio. It's got like sub early Tyler Perry budget. It's so horribly cheaply done, and yet it has protagonists that you actually care about. So when they're in danger, you care, which is kind of a rare thing, aside from your final girl, usually. And it was just so willing to be stupid. Like, it knew exactly what it was. It also has Ice-T, so right there, that's total points in my book. Warwick Davis still playing the same role. I love when something what sounds like a terrible idea and people just run with it. That is like my mantra. I love it. So that's how it came into number 10.
Number 10 is a good place to throw in a statement movie, and I think that is a statement movie. I haven't actually seen it, but I approve of the selection. Have you seen this, Sheldon?
I've seen all of them. This is probably the second best one of that series.
That's
I like how they eventually like kill the leprechaun at the end is super funny.
He doesn't actually die. He raps at the end.
No, I like how they subdue him at the end.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
It's very silly. It's very cheap, and I'm so glad it happened. And it has its own sequel.
The sequel is not nearly as good.
Nowhere near as good. Nowhere near. It is, honestly, it's one of the better Leprechaun films.
I like number 3 the best in Vegas.
Okay, yeah.
It just sets up, like, it's such a perfect scenario for this leprechaun to lose his money in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, that one works.
All right, let's jump in on number 9.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 9 from 1980, New Year's Evil.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of tipped my hat to you guys that I was going to include this one. I really like New Year's Evil. It's a pretty like low budget underground movie from that great year 1980, where you have this kind of huge proliferation of random slasher movies made by, in many cases, people who would never make another movie again. New Year's Evil has a really cool setting. It's set around on New Year's Eve. There's a kind of like call-in radio show. But it's also being filmed for like a cable station kind of new wave party. It's kind of billed as a new wave party. People are dressed in these great like kind of comic exaggerations of new wave outfits. Though the band isn't really new wave. The band's kind of is like hair metal or something.
So like they're screaming New Year's Evil over and over again?
Yeah, right. That one song that they play
in the fucking car, in the bar, every cutscene.
Yeah. But yeah, we were talking about this the other day. I love the thing where you have the movie like you had this in so many of these old Italian movies, where you have one cool song and you just play it again and again throughout the entire movie, like no matter what's happening.
I was actually pissed off when they fucking turned on the radio and it was them singing New Year's Evil on the car radio. It's like, dude, we've heard enough.
Yeah,
enough's enough.
But I really like the setting. It's also one of those slasher movies that takes place all in one night. I always like that too. I just think it ratchets up the tension when you know that you're starting on the same night it's going to end at. There's no extraneous scenes before or after. It's just all in one night. It's set up with a timing gimmick where the killer announces that he's going to kill somebody at midnight in every time zone in the United States. So you know there's going to be a kill at what is in Los Angeles. The movie set in Los Angeles. It's got a real like North Hollywood vibe. You know, there's going to be killing at what is for them 10, then 11, then 12. It's got great underground vibes. The movie has a lot of sympathy for these kind of weird underground characters and movements that I really like. There's a lot of like underground versus mainstream kind of tension. Like this cop walks up and comes in and he's like, "You want us to investigate you? You people create a problem and then you complain about it to us." But I think a lot of the movie's sympathy is really with the underground characters. I love the way that the killer on his mission, he kind of gets sidetracked by running into problems. It's almost like these comedy routines he starts stumbling into. Like he gets stuck with like these women who are annoying him, and then he accidentally hits these motorcycles of some like Hell's Angels motorcycle gangs and has to escape the motorcycle gang and ends up in like the Van Nuys drive-in theater. Like will the bikers try to attack him. I like that it's like a time capsule too. That's one thing that I think horror movies are often really good at, of just being kind of a snapshot of a time and a place. Maybe because horror movies are made to be to tap into trends, and they're made often very quickly. They seem to be better at that than other genres of movies. Like you watch a romantic comedy and everybody's wearing like jeans and t-shirts and they listen to the most popular music from 25 years ago. Like there's no sense of real of time and place. But in horror movies, you really drill down on like one place, 1 year. And this like LA Underground 1980 movie has this really cool sense of time and place. It's a nice vibe. It's fun. I actually like the theme music. It's a cool movie.
Very nice.
Have you guys seen this, either of you?
I have not.
I own it, and I watched it yesterday. I think if I was choosing like a themed movie like that, like I think Terror Train is miles above New Year's Evil. If you've seen Terror Train.
Yeah.
Because they're both based around New Year's Eve, parties.
True.
So when I was watching it, that's all I was thinking. Like, this is
Both
good.
from 1980.
Not as good as Terror Train. The son is a great character.
Yeah.
At one point, he was eating his mom's panties.
Yeah. With like just not followed up on or anything.
He was like chomping at him, and he puts them on his head.
And then he puts a pin through his ear,
Like,
and then
what?
the scene ends, and that's it.
But like, there's no reason for any of this weird mother-son relationship to be happening at all.
Exactly. They have such a weird, creepy relationship that's just kind of alluded to. It kind of, ends up having tying into the end a little bit. But for the most part, it's just like these weird scenes. Like there's just these weird moments of people going through these like weird, like psychological warping that are just kind of not followed up on. And it just contributes to this kind of weird, creepy vibe. Because he has a fucked up Oedipal relationship with his mom. No, he does though. That's clearly implied. Like he wants his mother who is like a new wave celebrity, minor underground celebrity or something, who's hosting the show. Mm-hmm. And he's being an actor, and he just wants her attention and her love so badly. And she's like, "I'm too busy, honey." And he has this obsessive fixation on it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna just grab another beer, and I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I wasn't prepared.
Oh, I thought you were actually going to the store to get beer. You were gone so long.
I'm in Quebec. If I did that at this time of night, I would be shot on sight by the
Oh, right, yeah. You have a maniac cop after you. Number 9, Maniac Cop.
Very nice.
So, have you guys both seen this movie?
Yep.
I unfortunately have not yet seen it.
So this one's made in I don't know. But it stars Bruce Campbell and Tom Atkins. Like
1988, I think.
Duo of actors to be in a horror movie. Bruce, obviously, from Evil Dead. Tom, Night of the Creeps, Halloween 3. 2 great movies. So this one, like, there's another one I can watch over and over and over again and forget, like, how people die every so often. Because I think it's up there in, like, 19, 20 kills in this movie. So,
that's high.
The kill count's high. There's no special kills, but there's a lot. And the storyline is pretty damn good, too.
The sequels were fun, too.
Oh, it's a great trilogy.
It's this one. It's just every second scene is him going after someone random, and each one is interesting and tense, and there's twists to some of them that I won't ruin for Dylan, but it's worth it. Just it shifts gears right away, and it never stops, which is nice.
So the only thing that bugs me about this movie, which is why it's so low, is that like somewhere around the halfway point, and not even halfway point, it kind of turns into like a cop drama rather than a horror movie.
When they give the killer like almost a moral that he's fighting for. Yeah.
Just sorry, before we move on, just a question from someone who's never seen it to 2 people who have seen it. If you're a cop hater, like, full on all cops are bastard types, will you appreciate Maniac Cop as an anti-cop movie, or would you say it's more of a pro-cop movie?
So the premise basically is this one cop gets sent to jail for doing his job, I guess, inappropriately. He gets killed in jail, and then comes back for revenge on the police force.
Okay.
Because they put him in jail for what he thought was doing his job.
So kind of like an undead Serpico.
Yeah. And the main killer, like the main bad guy, is a great character too.
Also, should note,
his jawline is insane.
they managed to, yeah, I was just to say that's very true. They have like Bruce Campbell's in there, so you think, well, that's clearly the biggest chin in the film. No, you have never seen a chin like this. It's like if Jay Leno got stung by 15 bees. It is the most ridiculous jaw, and it's not prosthetic. It's not plastic surgery. It's his actual jaw.
Okay, so I've seen the movie Paycheck where Ben Affleck and Aaron Eckhart square off. You're saying this is a more serious chin-on-chin battle than that?
Oh, those two. He polishes his chin with those chins. It borders on the like circus level. And I mean, to be fair, it's not like he did so many push-ups it got that big. He does have a condition. The actor had a medical condition.
Like, he looks like he's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So I Googled the actor, and I was like, oh, he has a medical condition that makes his jaw insane.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's great.
It's fantastic. But no, if you are not really up with cops, you'll like a lot, especially the scene where they're getting like the public's opinion on them. Mm-hmm. It sounds almost like interviews today at like a Black Lives Matter rally. It's very much it's not lionizing cops at all.
All right, you're up.
Okay, I'm going to be touching on a lot of the major slasher franchises, and with that, it's hard to pick which one of the series, because sometimes you can nestle into an entire franchise and pick like 5 favorites right out of there. But so I'm going to go again, harden the paint for number 9. I'm going to go with a Nightmare on Elm Street film, but not the first one, which I do like better than the one I chose. But I'm going to go with Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Oh my God!
I'm taking a sip here. I think there's a strong case to be made for this movie, and I want you to make it.
It's definitely not the worst. It has, like, I don't have to completely defend it from the ground up. It has many of them beat. I know it's not New Nightmare. I know it's not Dream Warriors. I know it's not the first one. But if you can rate a film on its pure, unabashed homoerotic subtext,
10.
Then this is a juggernaut.
It's an 11 out of 10.
It is just amazing what they put into this, and how some people can claim to be unaware while it was being being made. I don't know. I don't understand. And it has moments in it, like even before, like my film theory brain clicked on and realized, okay, this is what's going on. And I mean, it's not that it's subtle. Like, they literally find the gym teacher at a gay bar, dressed in all leather, like he's about to play bass for Judas Priest. And it's just like, okay, I get it. I get what's happening here. But even outside of that, just the sheer imagery of it, it doesn't have all the best, like, it certainly doesn't have all the most inventive kills, but it has certain moments that you can't forget, like Freddy coming out from the person, like, into the real world. I don't like, in theory, I don't like Freddy being in the real world. It really it makes him less of a threat. He's not a big, imposing figure. He should be in the dream realm. He's scary, but the imagery of him peeling out, like shedding this guy's skin, never left my brain after seeing it. And that's something about a film like this. It has certain images that stay with you forever, and I think that's something integral for a great slasher. So that's kind of my case.
I feel you on this. I think that's a great case, and specifically that one scene that you pointed out of Freddy emerging from a torso is amazing. And also, a body horror movie about like gay desire in, what are we talking, like 1984? Like,
this would have been 85.
85. We're in the early days of AIDS here. Like, I think a lot of people at the time would have made that connection.
Yeah.
Whether that was the filmmaker's intent or not, I think a lot of people watching the movie in 1985 would have made that connection. It kind of adds a little extra weight to having these kind of, homosexual urges turning into horrible body horror. I also agree that, like, the biggest problem with it is that Freddy entering the real world is kind of dumb. It kind of throws the mythology out, because he doesn't just enter the real world. Suddenly he can manipulate reality in the real world, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What's going on here? What are the rules at this point? It seems like the rule book has been thrown out.
Yeah, because they turned it into kind of a possession film, because the implication is that it's still the character Jesse's body, because in the end, it's like Freddy turns to ash and Jesse emerges from it like it was him the whole time. Not quite as, obvious as like a movie like High Tension, where it's like, oh, it was just that one person. But yeah, it's like a possession of him. You could hope that it's basically like it's a trans-dimensional rule where he's brought back into the real world from wherever dream dimension Freddy was from by way of his own body, just the same way that Freddy came into reality through his body. So it's like that was the nexus point, is like if you can come through a body into each other's worlds. But I mean, I'm sort of grasping at claws here, but it's a bit that's the best.
I appreciate the pun.
Yeah, I think so. That was a on the fly original. There's the name of your podcast.
I have no comment on that movie.
All right.
I feel like you're being diplomatic.
It's terrible. I don't watch it anymore. When I watch the series, I skip that one and I skip number 5.
I knew the diplomacy wouldn't last.
Dream Child is a good one to skip.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to number 8.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talked about New Year's Evil, Sheldon, you were saying how one of your issues with the movie was you just thought Terror Train was just a level above it.
Oh, you did it, didn't you?
Yes. Well,
yeah!
Level 8 specifically, I have Terror Train.
Boom! I'll finish my beer.
So Terror Train, another slasher from 1980. So Canadian slasher, the first film directed by Roger Spottiswoode, who would end up directing a lot of Hollywood action movies. The gimmick is that it is a slasher movie that is set on a train. A simple gimmick, which is a cool gimmick. It works well. Killer doesn't have one costume. It's like a costume party on the train. So when he kills people, he takes their costumes. So he's appears in a series of different guises. Jamie Lee Curtis, as in the movie, always a plus. A really fun movie, I think. I really like the look of this movie, too. This movie was shot by the cinematographer John Alcott, who shot a lot of Stanley Kubrick movies. He shot 2001, Barry Lyndon, The Shining. So like an extremely good cinematographer who somehow ended up on this Canadian slasher on a train movie and had to get really creative with the lighting because it's not easy to light the inside of a train. It was actually shot in the insides of a train. So he set up a series of like dimmers and medical pen torches and even Christmas lights and stuff. So he lit it really creatively, and I think you see that in the movie. It has a really a distinctive look, a gaudy look. There's a lot of weird costumes characters are wearing because they're celebrating a sort of costume party. So it has the inside of the train was decorated like Art Deco, which is not the actual inside of the train. It's like a Canadian Pacific rail car, but they decorated it gaudily. Everybody's wearing these costumes. The lighting is weird, and it's just got a weird gaudy look to it. David Copperfield has a role as a magician, which adds to the kind of carnivalesque, Vegas-y, trashy character of the film. But it's a fun movie. It has good scenes. It's I like this one a lot.
It's not on my list, but it's a great movie. For one, Jamie Lee Curtis. Mm-hmm. 2, the tagline on the front cover, which is it's a nice cover, is "The boys and girls of Sigmund Pie. Well, some will live, some will die." Like it's great. Like you are attracted to that, to rent it or buy it at your local Blockbuster.
Yeah, fun stuff. A good gimmick done well.
Oh yeah. Oh, and John Belushi's in it for like a minute or two.
Is he really?
Jim Belushi.
Huh.
Remember they're making fun of a monk. They're making fun of a monkey in a cage. That's Jim Belushi and someone else.
Okay.
So next I had a movie that we deemed not a slasher. So I took it off and added one from like one from the same writer. So I got Candyman here.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll take a sip for that.
I definitely
so like the kill count is like at 4 or 5 in this movie. It's not too high. But when the deaths do happen, they're pretty spectacular. Tony Todd, the actor, is a great bad guy. He's like this movie, he's a great monster, right? hook
Yeah,
for an arm, like an open chest, so we can see like the cavities and all that business, and just the atmosphere and like the score on this movie. It's like a great like gothic horror movie.
Yeah, totally. Great setting too. You know, the setting counts a lot in a slasher movie because it's like in what environment is evil being bred, and so here they have that the housing complex, Kiberi Green, right? The housing complex in Chicago,
Yeah.
notorious housing complex, and just what a great idea for a backdrop to have, evil infiltrating people's lives.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one. And yeah, I guess I may as well expand on it too, because yeah, I've got this on my list, so to skip over it later. It yeah, very great looking killer, great actor, great premise. It's great when you can care about the killer in a way, and not in that contrived cheering for the bad guy way that Rob Zombie wants us all to have, but in a way that like this person deserves some form of revenge. Like they experienced something so horrible, and of course it's representative of the suffering of so many. So it's a new, and of course it had the whole folklore of it is amazing. Like a movie that makes you nervous to say words is very, like, that says something when it actually changes words that are in our general vernacular. Like it's like you can't say that, you can't do the whole, it's like saying Bloody Mary, like that whole gag when you were a kid. You just can't do. I remember kids daring others to say Candyman into a mirror. It's a great film. Love it.
So what do you got for your number 8?
Going into another franchise here, and I had to pick one from it, so I'm going to go into Friday the 13th. And from that, I have picked number 4.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, here's a big sip coming from me.
Yeah, number 4. It's whenever I've tried to cherry pick one, it's like if I can't see, like, for however many I want to see, if I've got time to only see one in the Halloween season, I try and cherry pick one out. And I usually want to pick. I'll skip over 5, and often we'll pick 6 because I do enjoy the idea of zombie Jason.
Yeah, 6 is a good one.
Yeah, the look, because the look of him is so good in number 6. But 4 offers so much, and I mean, it probably goes without saying, but I will say that Crispin Glover's dance moves are one of those factors, and his acting in it, he's so Crispin Glover, it's great. But Tom Savini coming back on the promise to kill off Jason Voorhees, he does such amazing work. Like every kill, every gag is just a step above, and you can tell, even the very first one, where it's like the guy's getting like his neck broken, or like throat slashed, but then his head's twisted completely backwards for no reason. And it's just that extra little mwah that he puts onto each of them. And like even his own, like falling on his own machete at the end, and there's just extra shots of it slowly driving through his face that's still kind of like his jaws moving around. You got one of the Corys in there, Corey Feldman, introducing Tommy Jarvis to us. So like, bless the 80s, we've got that little gem. It's got so much 80s-ness. It's iconic. It's got the hockey mask with the axe to the head. Jason is how he should be. He doesn't have the bag on his head. It's not an imitator like in the next godforsaken film. It's a marquee Jason film.
Yeah, it can't be said often enough how great Crispin Glover is in the movie, just embodying awkward teenageness so perfectly. Every line delivery, every gesture, it's not just his dance, every weird mix of confidence and total lack of self-awareness, and just an amazing performance in a movie that has lots of great moments of teenagers being teenagers.
And Crispin Glover's death in it is one that was like jarring, because it's another, like, you felt for the kid because he was so damn awkward. And it was such a rattling one, like just such that huge cleaving of its face. And then it's also, when I saw it, I realized how they did that, and then I stole the trick for one of my own short films
Nice.
of just basically cutting, like it's just, you just cut a little divot into a blade and then just film it in reverse, and it looks like it's really wedging in there. So yeah, Crispin Glover, I know you're listening.
Return my calls.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Okay, so let's go to number 7. My number 7 is Sheldon already alluded to it, I think, Maniac. Maniac, film made by William Lustig, who made Maniac Cop as well, which I still need to see. I just realized. So I'm still in the year 1980. I can't get out of that year. Just so many weird, unique, low-budget slasher movies made in that year. But Maniac stands out. It is such a sleazy movie. Like, you can smell the sleaze in this movie more than almost any movie I've ever seen. Like, it smells like carpet saturated with piss and cheap beer and cigarettes, and I love it. There's that kind of, there's that real sleaze you only get from a low budget movie shot without permits. It's like the difference between drinking a beer that calls itself like a farmhouse beer and a beer that actually has wild fermentation. It's that deep, funky complexity. This is a movie that stinks of that, and I love it. It's a purely grimy, greasy ass film. The actor Joe Spinell, who plays the killer, he had a small role in the Godfather movies, and he was in the Rocky movies. A character actor, a journeyman. Kicks it out of the park in this film. He's got a paunch, he's got a mustache, but it's somehow believable. But that in this like grimy world of 1980 New York, it's a very New York movie. That he could actually go out and pick up girls, and he lives in this kind of world of like porn movies and like art openings. Great Tom Savini gore effects too.
Yeah, it's really good. So the actor, like, the best part about this movie is obviously Joe Spinelli. Every kill he has, he's fucking moaning and groaning loudly into the mic, right?
Yeah, he hates being a slasher.
Yeah, and just sweating profusely.
Oh, it's so sweaty.
It's so great. Like, when he's killing people, like, it is as if the mic is in the guy's right under his mouth. He's like,
the mic is in his armpit.
Like, moaning and groaning and sweating, and has this crazy look in his eyes. It's fucking great. And there's that one kill in this movie, again, you know what it is. You know what I'm talking about. He fucking comes out of the fog, hops onto the hood of the car, points the shotgun at the guy, and shoots him. And the fucking head explodes inside the car.
Yeah.
You remember that scene?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm assuming they used a watermelon, because the fucking thing just blows up.
No, they did not. That one scene caused them the most trouble. That was a lot of meat. That was actual meat they were using.
Oh,
nice.
That was pieces of a pig and some other bits that Tom had done that. Tom is playing the killer at that point. He's the one that fires the gun. He's also the driver, I think. He's playing every little bit of that. That was shot in Central Park, I think. They fired a real gun, and then the second they did, they had pre-planned to immediately drive to a storage locker to hide the car and let the heat die down so that they could retrieve it later and not get caught firing a weapon in Central Park. And so when they went to retrieve the car, it was 3 days later, and it's summertime, and the meat had been sitting in the car in a closed storage locker for 3 days during a New York heat wave.
So it smelled like Maniac.
So I remember either watching or listening to that in the bonus features.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And yeah, they just basically, from what I understand, from what I heard, whoever was driving it was basically just had their head out the window and was barfing continuously. It was a nonstop. You just couldn't help it. They just were, anything that was inside them became outside as they drove this horrible thing away.
Another thing about this movie, like walking to your Blockbuster, you see the cover. There's a dude holding a fucking head with a knife with blood dripping all the way down onto his feet, with like a really big bulge in his crotch area. Like, you can't not rent that.
Yeah, it's great.
It summarizes it pretty neatly.
Yep. I also did not mind the remake of this film.
The remake I thought was really good too. Just it didn't capture what the original was.
No, you can't. You couldn't.
All right, so I don't need to listen to the commentary track if one exists. I'll just ask Will questions
Yeah.
about the precise details of every gore scene.
So next, I have number 7. I have Psycho 2.
Taking a big sip.
Yep.
You seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a gooder.
It's great, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what does this? Why I have this? I'll just say right now, I don't have Psycho on my list. I'm not sure if we were even allowed to put it on our list.
We weren't allowed because I said it has to be 70s or later.
Like, I like this more than Psycho the original.
That's a bold statement.
Like Norman or Anthony Perkins, like amps up the creepiness factor so much in that character, and like everything, the way he talks, his mannerisms. The one's really goofy death, which I like a lot. The dude gets stabbed and falls down the flight of stairs, or falls off the stairs. And somehow lands perfectly on the knife where it goes deeper. So great death. Yeah, and the twist ending is almost better than the first one, in my mind.
Yeah, it's hard to compare.
Just the ending of this movie is, I think, better than the ending of the original.
Yeah, it's a tough thing comparing like a classic Hitchcock movie with a movie made 23 years later or whatever.
So with Psycho 1, the original Psycho, like, I think, like, I was born knowing that he was also his mother. Like, it was just something people my age were born with.
Right.
Just knowledge.
Yeah, it's the problem with any classic movie where there's, like, too much cultural saturation that when by the time you get to it, you already know too much.
Yeah, like, I don't remember the first time I watched Psycho, but I knew for a fact when I put it on, I was like, oh, this is just internal knowledge I have that he's the mother. So watching Psycho 2, like, I only watched this movie a couple of years ago for the first time. I bought the triple feature with 2, 3, and 4 on it at Walmart for like $5. And I was like, wow, there's a Psycho 2? No idea. Every death is better, other than the shower scene. And I thought the ending was better.
Yeah, so I just watched this movie this week. I had never seen it before I watched it because you recommended it to me. And like, I'm a big Hitchcock fan. I am hesitant to approach a sequel made by different people 23 years later, and I was really impressed by this movie. Like, the one thing I will agree where it tops the first Psycho is Anthony Perkins' performance, which is incredible.
It's so good, amazing,
incredible. Anthony Perkins is amazing in this movie. I thought it just blew me away, and I really like the movie's sensitivity to him. You know, you really care about the guy, even as you do not know if he's going to start killing again or not, which you really don't know until a late point in the movie. It's really left hanging up in the air. We won't spoil it, but you really don't know through most of the runtime if he is going to start killing him, if he has started killing again. But there's so much sensitivity towards him. He's getting a new job. He just got released from an institution. He gets a job at like a fry shack. And just his awkwardness, his trying to be liked, his trying to reintegrate in a world. You really care for the guy.
The insane smile he has, like the fake smile he makes. Oh, I don't know. It's a great character.
It's really weird to have a slasher movie that is that attentive to a slasher, to a killer. Even though we don't know if he will start killing again or not, he was a killer, and there's so much emotional sensitivity given to him. It almost like rights a wrong of the original Psycho, which the Psycho was kind of a forebear to the slashers that would come about later. And nobody ever said slasher movies are not problematic. And one of the issues about these kind of psycho killer movies that really started with Hitchcock's Psycho is that it's obviously not fair to people who actually do have mental illnesses to blame mental illnesses on people killing and stuff. And to have this movie that comes out of the height of the slasher craze, which is a sequel to Psycho that is so sensitive and kind and caring in the way it regards the original psychopath Norman Bates, anchored by this incredible performance by Anthony Perkins, where he gets to dig into the character way deeper than he did in the original film, is a pretty incredible thing. So this movie was directed by Richard Franklin, who was a big Australian exploitation movie guy. Like, he did Road Games, don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a good movie. I think he's got a great sense of everyday life. There are movies in Psycho 2, like the very first scene. There are moments, like the very first scene in the courthouse where they're trying to rush on to the next case. There's a scene in a hotel lobby where somebody passes by in a vacuum cleaner. There's this real texture of everyday life, of people just trying to get around to their jobs. I think this is something that Richard Franklin was really good at. Road Games has a really great sense of taking place in the real world. It feels really real. And Psycho 2 has that great texture of real life, of just being populated by a bunch of people trying to get on with their daily lives. This movie is way better than I expected it to be, than it has any right to be, honestly.
Yeah, right? A lot of people don't even know they even have sequels to Psycho, other than that shit remake with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, I was vaguely aware there were Psycho sequels, but I had never thought to explore them before.
Don't go any further after 2, though.
Okay,
they're complete garbage. All right, well.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I'm also, this is an easy one. 7, Candyman. We talked about it.
Nice, right. There we go. So, I guess I'll drink.
Yeah. Cheers.
I think I drank last time, so I'm contractually obliged to do it again. It is Candyman's not on my list, but it is a movie I do really like. All right, we'll move on to number 6. My number 6, it's another repeat. I have Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, which is Friday the 13th Part 4. They really jumped the gun on the final chapter. About 6 or 7 films too early on that. We already talked about it. A really great film. It has a great mix of teenage characters, I think. A great mix of different teenage types that get to bounce off each other for a little bit in the cabin before they start getting split apart. There's a great attention to kind of like dorky, awkward moments as being kind of like familiar and realistic and almost reassuring. Like I have this vivid memory of this one scene with the Jarvis family where the mother was like, okay, Jarvis sandwich, and they all do a hug with like little Tommy Jarvis in the middle, and just the kind of like awkward texture of everyday life that I appreciate in the movies. And the ending gets a little strange and goes in places you didn't expect it to.
Number 6, I'm going with like the most perfect slasher movie ever made, and there's a reason why 6 and not number 1.
Ooh.
But
okay,
like literally the most perfect movie ever made because it had movies before it to give it structure, and this is Scream 1.
Bring it on.
Basically, like I like it because it has so many throwbacks and references and Easter eggs to every horror movie before it. It was like a love letter to slasher fans. Like, we can watch this, enjoy it. It kicks off with a bang, killing off. I guess everyone's seen it by now. Everyone should have, anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, you don't have to worry about spoilers.
The start of the movie kicks it off, and it just like sets a pace, and it's just so good. You think you have a main character, and they fucking kill her off, like, immediately. The final girl in this movie, I think, is one of the greatest fine girls ever, and somehow she's lasted all 4 of them. Great movie. Everything about it. Like, the whodunit factor is, like, they hint at people throughout, and then they kill them off. So you're like, I think it's this person. Fuck, no, he's dead. And then the continuity of it, where you know where every character is at every time, so you can kind of piece together in your head who could have done it. Like, you don't get that in Friday the 13th. Like, all of a sudden he's killing someone, and on the same time, now he's in Manhattan killing someone. It's like, well, there's no continuity there. He's fucking in Manhattan when he was on Crystal Lake a day ago. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. That's my rant. I'm done.
No, I hear you. The whodunit factor is strong.
Again, another, just like Sleepaway Camp 1, if you watch this movie with someone who somehow hasn't seen it, it adds that extra feature to it where you're with your friend and they're trying to guess who does it, and always kind of like looking over at you like, am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I feel you. Well argued. Good point. Well made. Like I said, I think that Kevin Williamson is a talented writer. He made a good script. Personally, I would rather not all the meta references. I don't think they add anything. I think it more takes things away from it.
No, they make it better for each viewing. Like, I can watch it now and pick up a new one I've never seen.
Right. No, I hear you. I guess for me, it's like less of a value to be like pointing at the screen, like, I recognize that thing. I feel like that's almost taking you out of the movie rather than putting you deeper into it by continually reminding you that you're watching a movie. You know, like the critics call it when a movie is self-aware, as opposed to other movies where I just, yeah, but it's like, you know, how are other movies not self-aware? Like, I don't understand why a movie needs to turn to the camera and wink at the audience to remind you that you're watching a movie like you're a baby without object permanence. Like, if it doesn't do that,
I don't think this movie did that.
No, obviously I'm exaggerating. It's a smart movie. It didn't. I'm exaggerating. I'm just saying that those kind of postmodern meta-narrative elements, when they're played just to kind of throw things for the audience, and this is a thing that we see so much in Hollywood movies now. For me, it doesn't do anything for me.
Unless
that's a personal preference.
Or ahead of Scream 3 on your list, these comments are null and void. Scream 3. Jesus Christ. Who's up? I'm just angry.
It's me.
Yep, it's you.
Number 6.
Yep.
This was a weird placeholder spot. I've kept rotating stuff in and out of it. I had to remove some because of rules I forgot. So I just went with one that kind of follows a bit of that mantra of it's so silly it shouldn't work, and yet it takes itself so seriously. I'm actually going to put in the first Child's Play.
Okay.
Not the remake. The sequels are silly enough; they're ridiculous. I appreciate where where it went, and in fact, I'll
take a big drink for that.
Yeah, I didn't like the remake. I did like the most recent sequels that were done in Winnipeg. Actually, I thought they were actually decent films, and the most recent of which actually had brought a lot of the horror back to it, and was actually quite good. But the first one, it surprised me when I watched it how much of a actually kind of a spooky film it is. It's about like it is. We all know it's a killer doll possessed by by Brad Dourif, and we totally buy what they're selling. Like it has genuinely scary moments. He actually ends up looking quite creepy when he's all incinerated. It's I just have to tip my hat to it being taking itself very serious and actually being a rather good film despite having all the reasons to be silly and stupid. So that's enough case for it, I suppose. Its legacy kind of speaks for itself, but I like that.
Yeah, even with an admittedly silly premise, Wes Craven knows how to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he really does.
And it is a good movie.
Yeah,
I like almost all those movies. I like, other than I think Son of Chucky. I think he has
Seed of Chucky. Yeah,
I thought that was pretty bad, but
yeah.
Also, the two new ones, or the two newest ones, not the remake, were both really great films.
Yeah, very good.
Just to mention it, we are at the halfway point. I'm totally game to press on to the end. Are you guys still feeling it?
I got 6 beers to go. I'm ready.
Okay, give me a second. I'll be right back, all right?
Oh, my God. I can't believe you put Scream 3 on his list and not the other ones. That boggles my fucking mind. It's insane. That's the worst movie.
Number 5. It had to come at some point. Halloween. The original, of course, 1978. Feels almost like it shouldn't be that low, but I'm not trying to snub it. I absolutely love Halloween. It's like sleek and efficient and hard like a bullet. Every scene hits. The POV shots are great. The long tracking shots are great.
Those are amazing.
Yeah, just a great sense of being there. Great sense of atmosphere. One thing I like about it, when you watch it in context as at least one of the movies that set the mold, it's really interesting that they have this very suburban setting, which is kind of part of the horror, right? You know, people have a hard time attracting the attention of their neighbors in this suburban setting. It kind of flips on its head the old like Kitty Genovese idea. I don't know if you guys know this, the old Kitty Genovese story. There was a thing like in New York in the 60s where a woman was killed, and the New York Times reported that 38 people heard her being killed and nobody called the police or anything.
Yeah.
It turns out that story's not true, right? It was misreported, but it was like a really it was a story that ended up in like all kinds of psychology textbooks forever, because it really tapped into this idea that people had at the time that, you know, American life had been moving from the inner cities to the suburbs. So, you know, there was a white flight, white families, capital, social resources were moving to the suburbs, kind of abandoning the inner cities. And there was an idea that the cities were left to be this area where people had no sense of connection, had no support, that people were individualized and atomized, where things like Kitty Genovese could happen. Halloween flips that on its head. Halloween says that in the suburbs, that's the place where people don't have support, where people are atomized, individualized, where you can run down the street screaming that you're being killed, and you're might as well be running through a canyon. People will likely just close their blinds.
Mm-hmm.
Just moving that horror to the suburbs and showing it as a kind of like a kind of moral and social rot of individuals living in the suburbs. I thought that hits hard every time you watch it. Just a great film.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's I cherish it. I love that he also like the theme is great. The score is wonderful. I love that he also adopts Blue Oyster Cult as kind of his own second theme, because there actually is a moment where, like, I love that his theme music follows him a couple times, and I didn't even realize it. Like when he's driving the station wagon and he turns a corner and the music fades with the car as if he's playing it, like he's an ice cream truck. Yeah, everything's effective. The cast is really great. The settings look so good. The fear is very real. Of course, Michael Myers looks so good. It's such a great looking, like, slasher killer. It's to say it's iconic is an understatement.
Yeah, and because it's iconic, it's easy to say from a distance that it's a great look. But at the time, you know what, like somebody like turned a Captain Kirk mask inside out and painted it white or something, and then it ends up being the scariest fucking shit ever. Like, it just, you know, a low budget movie where there's just everything just worked right, and the kind of movie that feels like it almost wasn't made by people making decisions, that you just dreamed it or something. That's how perfect and instantly right everything feels.
Since you don't want to listen to commentary tracks, do you want to know where the mask came from?
I mean, I'm aware that there was that it was a William Shatner mask, but I don't know the full details. So tell me.
But it's from the movie The Devil's Reign.
Okay, so it was not actually a Captain Kirk mask.
No, it was stolen from the set of Devil's Reign, and then bleached to be all white. But because in that movie, which also features Ernest Borgnine turning into like a devil goat man, which is amazing, but he has his eyes seared out during a satanic ritual. So he's wearing a mask of his own face on his face to give that depth look of his eyes being blacked out.
Oh, no way.
That's why they did that. So yeah, that was a mask. One of those masks was taken from that set, I think by John Carpenter himself. And that's where it came from.
Nice.
For me in this movie, it's just basically what, like, Donald Pleasance's acting, or overacting, I guess, is so great.
Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite part of this movie, is every scene with Dr. Loomis.
So what do you have at number 5, Sheldon?
One we've already mentioned. I have Maniac at number 5.
Nice.
Very nice.
All right. I'm obliged to take a big chunk here.
But I fucking love this movie. I love Joe Spinell's acting. I love just how fucking dirty he is. Like, the heavy breathing, the moaning, the grunting, the fucking sweat pouring down his face as he's killing these people. It's great. They couldn't have had a better, like, person playing this Maniac.
I feel like he wouldn't work in another setting, but in like 1980 New York, it somehow seems perfect.
So Will's up now.
Yeah, what you got at number 5?
Number 5. I don't know if this will be a controversial one or not, but I'm going with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Ooh, I'll drink for that.
Mm-hmm.
I like this movie.
I was very tempted to put in The New Generation with Matthew McConaughey.
I like that one a lot. I don't know why people hate on it.
I found that one, the first time I saw it, it just enraged me how bad it was. But then coming back to it, I appreciated like the ridiculous decisions that went into it, and that sound he makes when jumping, just like whatever the hell that was supposed to be. But 2, I like 2 because it's all the things that House of a Thousand Corpses strove to be. Wasn't quite, but it's very. It's again. The ongoing theme in my entire list is like I love genuine horror films, unironic horror films, but I also love ones that are so stupid and ridiculous and they commit to it. Like it has him wearing his like dead uncle's body as like a smock to kill those yuppies, and like he's just the whole carnival setting where they reside is just amazing. Like the enormity of that set where it's just these tunnels and tubes and the decorating. Like I love how it's implied, because they always have such great sets on the Texas Chainsaw films, how much decorating this family does. Like they have very little to do other than kill and whatnot. Like I love that also it gives him an occupation. Like he does these barbecue competitions, and I love the darkness of that. Like it's such a dark thing, the fact that they've unwittingly made whole communities into cannibals for a while, like repeatedly. Like he is a known champion, so he's not only doing this to people, but he has trophies proving he's the best at making people unwitting cannibals. And you've got Dennis Hopper waving multiple chainsaws at once. So, and I mean, I know based on what I understand of Dennis Hopper's life, that's just describing Tuesday night for him. But still, the fact that they got it on film is wonderful for us. And that's plenty about that, I think.
Yeah, I like this movie too. I'm a big fan of Tobe Hooper, and I think that even though he's done several like movies that you could definitely call hicksploitation, I feel like he never looks down his nose at the kind of underclass hick killers that that are in his movies. And Texas Chainsaw 2 kind of almost corrects on the first Texas Chainsaw by fleshing out their lives and showing kind of sympathy for them, and just like enjoying hanging out with them. I just really like that as a sequel concept.
There's like a fight scene where he's standing on top of a truck or something with the chainsaw,
and he stands up on the truck and starts dipping the chainsaw into the yuppie's car. He does that great diagonal head cleave where the guy's still kind of driving and he's like reaching his hands up as if to like kind of correct his sunglasses, but a part of his head sliding off.
That's a great opening scene to a movie.
Yeah, it sets a tone. Also, actually, and I don't remember her name, but the final girl in that one, she's great.
All right, so moving on to number 4, I'm going back to Friday the 13th, Part 3, in 3D.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Really?
Yes. I'm going to admit that I have a kind of a personal connection to this movie. I saw it for the first time. I was like, when I was bumming around in San Francisco when I was like 18 years old, and it was around Halloween, and I ended up at the Castro Street Theater, which is an iconic theater they have there that's been open for 100 years. And they were showing Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, original print, original 3D projection with 2 projectors simultaneously projecting.
Did you wear the glasses?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not like polarized or anything, like literally being projected twice. It popped so hard, and absolutely loved every goddamn second of what I was seeing. And I still love this movie very much. You could definitely easily make the case that Part 4 was a better movie, but I think Part 3 is actually a very, very good movie too. It also has a really good mix of young characters in it, but it also has such a great sense of spectacle. Like, this is a movie that was really made for 3D hardcore. I know there's a DVD release that has the 3D glasses that kind of work too. So yeah, you can kind of replicate it too. They went all in for the sense of spectacle on this. They telegraphed that early in the film. You can notice at one point early in the film, somebody's got a poster on the wall for The Great Train Robbery, which is like an early silent film that is legendary because apparently people like ducked and ran out of the screen and ran out of the cinema when the train was coming towards them. So I think the inclusion of that poster is really the filmmakers. Steve Miner directed this, who did some other good horror. I think this is really, their declaration of the kind of thing they want to do. They want to make a movie where people duck and take cover. They really want to amp the spectacle factor up. And I think that's what sets it apart for me. Is that the combination of good teen melodrama, good kills. Of course, this is the first appearance of Jason's hockey mask as well.
Yep.
That plus the sense of spectacle, the sense of really giving the audience shocking, exciting visuals. Early on in the movie, you have a scene of sheets, like bed sheets, being hung out to dry, and the camera just slowly moves through them, and it's beautiful. You have this moment of beauty in the middle of a slasher film. I never expected this moment of beauty. And then you have gags. Somebody passes you a joint. The popcorn pops towards the screen.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then most famously, Jason shoots a spear gun directly at the camera.
I almost thought I died there. It was close.
Yeah, but all of these hit for me. All of these hit hard. So the combination of the slasher essentials, a good, brisk, fun storyline, with this great sense of just wowing and exciting the audience, makes it a wonderful piece of entertainment. Would I love it as much if I didn't have this personal connection to having seen it? Maybe not, but I really think it's a luxurious, exciting, fun movie, and that's why it's at my number 4.
I think it's the second best one in that series.
I won't ask any follow-up questions because it might spoil the rest of your list. I don't know. Yeah.
I love putting on those little cardboard fucking glasses and watching it, and it doesn't really work at home.
Yeah, I love 3D movies. I'm completely sold.
So 4, I got The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Ooh, I've never seen this.
So I was flip-flopping between the remake, or not, I guess it's not really a remake, the original, or the remake from 2014. Because they're both amazing movies. I went with the remake, which is like a quasi-sequel. Have you seen either of them, Dylan?
I have not.
So they're both really great movies. The remake, or sequel, it has like a similar thing to Scream, where it's like a whodunit type feel. There's some really good kills in it. A big death count, which I like. I guess it was based on like a real story, from what I gathered on Wikipedia. It has like the same feel as like the Zodiac Killer type thing. Maybe that's the one it was based on. Have you seen it, Will?
I have not.
Oh wow! Both of them have a great kill, where the fucking guy ties a knife to the end of his trombone. It's fucking awesome.
Movie is this set in a marching band or something? What is the context for a guy walking around with a trombone?
You have to watch. Anyway, put that in your list to watch. Both movies.
Cool.
It already is. All right, what do you got, Will?
Okay, almost out of spite, I pushed to number 4, Santa's Sleigh.
All right.
It is. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it when I first encountered it. I got it as like a free loose disc when I worked at Jumbo Video, and it's of course silly. Like I appreciated all the like Canadian references, and there's a bunch of like Gretzky Easter eggs for some reason in it. And it's Goldberg, the wrestler, as Santa. Well, of course he's Satan. Like it's just it's a very slight jumbling of the letters, but it's got a bunch of like it opens with a really hilarious bunch of cameos where one family that has James Caan, Fran Drescher, Chris Kattan, and Rebecca Gayheart in it, all getting slaughtered by him. It's ridiculous. Dave Thomas as the mayor. It is silly. It's got all the other slasher elements of the kids getting chased around. They're the last kids, and lots of death every which way. But it's plain fun. So there.
Nice. Yeah. I watched this movie because you recommended it to me. I didn't know it before.
You watched it?
You're shocked.
All of it?
I did. I did watch it. It's a fun movie. They waste nothing in this movie, I gotta say. You know what I mean?
No, they waste our time.
Aside from that, I mean, every shot is taken as an opportunity to do something ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah.
There is not a single shot where they they do anything the slightest bit straight or predictable.
Yeah, they don't drag their heels at all.
Good Lord.
All right, bring us number 3.
All right, we're just talking about Texas Chainsaw 2. Not on my list. Neither is number 1, though I did manage to sneak in a Tobe Hooper movie. A lot of his movies are kind of slasher adjacent, but it's hard to say how much they are slashers. I put in at number 3, The Funhouse.
Oh.
1981, a great film. I love this movie. I'm a big fan, as I've mentioned.
I'll take a small drink for me.
You'll take a small drink? Okay. You'll smell your beer. I really love Tobe Hooper's attention to aesthetics and attention to his characters. I think he's a great filmmaker, underrated. The Funhouse is a one-night adventure. It takes place in a carnival. Obviously a great setting for a slasher movie. You have 4 teens, 2 couples who enter this carnival at a moment when both of them are kind of maybe doubting their relationships. They're at a moment where they're, at the cusp of adulthood and kind of doubting to what extent the partner they are with is self-interested, caring about them. And in this, they walk into the Funhouse, a grotesque circus reenactment of adult life, and it's a horrible nightmare. The dialogue between the characters is really strong. They set up this idea very well of these kids on the edge of adulthood who see the world explode into horrors and just this grotesque realm of where genes and families and cycles of exploitation can trap your lives, which is so well represented visually. It's a carnival, so of course it's extremely gaudy. It's really nauseating, candy-colored palette. There are grotesque images in this that stick with you. Like I already mentioned, Tobe Hooper makes these kind of exploitation movies, but he kind of has sympathy for those underclass characters and likes to implicate the more upper class characters in a kind of guilt. So there's like a moment where one of these characters actually steals from where one of the heroes, one of the teenagers, steals from one of the carnival workers. And I feel that's kind of a Hitchcock moment. Hitchcock has this thing in his movies where nobody is really innocent. Nobody deserves what's happening to them. They're the wrong person. They don't deserve to be hunted or killed, but nobody's innocent either. Innocent is always a construct in Hitchcock movies. Guilt is the constant, and I think Tobe Hooper does the same thing in his movies. There's genuinely creepy scenes in this, and the ending is so good. Without giving too much away, there's an implication that this horrible nightmare world that they've entered is something that you never walk out of. I discovered it fairly recently, and it instantly became one of my favorite horror movies. So big props for Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse, 1981.
Yeah, I like this movie. I just don't love it like you do. The Frankenstein monster, like, what the fuck did he was jerking off at one point?
So what he does is he pays the fortune teller to sleep.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then he prematurely ejaculates, yes, and she won't give him his money back. And then he kills her. And that's kind of the event that sets us in motion, because the teenagers are watching this through boards. Because the teenagers have decided to camp out in the carnival overnight, and they're watching this through boards out overhead.
Yeah, that was
and this is kind of the moment where they realize they've stumbled into a world that they're over their heads. But at this point, they can't get out anymore.
You pay to get in, pray to get out. Good tagline, but yeah, it didn't do it for me.
Yeah, I do appreciate also how the killer's deformity mirrors the deformity on the two-headed cow that they see earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, and I like that. Just before that, or shortly before that, they like smoke weed. And then they enter the carnival like for real now, and they see this two-headed cow. And I just like this moment of them getting stoned and wandering into something which is kind of more grotesque than they expected it to be, which kind of sets the stage for then when we finally get to the killer, his deformity mirrors the cow's deformity. Yeah, I like those details.
Have you seen this, Will?
I have not.
All right, I'm up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's your number 3?
Okay, number 3 for me is my favorite Friday 2.
Ooh, okay, I'm drinking for that.
Friday 2 has, for one, they introduce Jason as the actual killer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think out of most of the movies in this series, this one has the best kills and one fucking great kill. The characters in this movie are also, like, they're so diverse. It has the best selection of characters to, like, choose from if you're picking one to drink for. They have the wheelchair guy who's like, I'm going to walk again. I swear I'm going to walk. And he goes on and on and on about walking again. And when they finally kill that character in this movie, you remember this death?
Not exactly. Doesn't he get sent down a flight of stairs or something?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's different than every other death in the entire series. And there's a weird, like, shot they do of it. Completely different than any other death.
Also,
Yeah.
I like the obviously Jason doesn't have his hockey mask yet, but
I like the
look.
I like the bag.
A burlap sack with only one eye hole.
I liked it as equal as I like the hockey mask Jason.
Yeah, if it had 2 eye holes, it would be boring. 1 eye hole, weird and creepy.
I thought it was good, and then I like that they killed off the final girl from the first one immediately, and the final girl they introduced in this one is so much better. It's my favorite one, by far. And then they have one character who defies logic, does everything wrong, and fucking lives. Ted. You know what Ted does? Ted does drugs. Ted does everything Scream told you not to do. He goes to a fucking bar, goes out drinking with everyone at midpoint in the movie. Everyone says, we're going back to camp. Ted says, no, fuck you, I'm staying here. Everyone goes back to camp and dies. Ted has never heard from him again, but he didn't go back to camp. That's the end of his storyline. He's just at a bar. Everyone else dies, not Ted.
He made the right choices. All right, what you got, Will?
Okay, I have picked one that I'm in.
Oh.
I'm selfish.
Okay.
And I was making sure it actually counted, and it does. I'm going with Father's Day by the film collective Astron 6.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
I genuinely enjoy it. It's a genuinely great movie. It's ridiculous. It was made with actual blood, actual tears, actual...
What year was this one made?
Like recent, 2011.
Oh, recent, okay.
So that means it was made over the course of, like, I don't know, probably from 2008 up to 2011. Like, it took a while. So it sets up a already ridiculous premise of a killer who only kills fathers. And the fact that, and then they managed to make it escalate, not just with the type of characters they have as their protagonists, and the type of kills they have, which are, it's already ridiculous. It's already way over the top and very funny. And then it becomes something else, which since you haven't seen it, I won't spoil what it becomes, but it escalates much, much further than you would ever anticipate. Like, it goes further than, like, even further into different realms than, say, Nightmare on Elm Street does. Like,
okay.
Yeah, it traverses into a whole different, almost a different genre, and still playing by its own weird set of rules. It's a great one, and yes, I die in it.
Okay, so you asked us to watch Santa Slay. I would have much rather watched Father's Day than... And then I could have at least seen you in the movie and have an idea of what you look like. Jesus Christ.
Also, I'm naked in the movie.
Well, there you go. Even better.
So, yeah.
There's the number one reason to watch it right there. All right, so we've got the last two standing here.
You're up with number 2.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm up with number 2.
I'm going to take a guess of what it is before you say it.
All right, I'm waiting.
So you have... No, actually, I don't have a guess.
Here, I'm going to give you a hint. You hear that?
Oh, there we go.
That's me opening a Moosehead Genuine Canadian
Lager.
Lager.
Oh, My Bloody Valentine.
Number 2, My Bloody Valentine. I fucking love this movie.
It was good.
It's good. It's so good. I've seen it several times. 1981, another Canadian slasher movie. So Canadian. Very East Coast. It has a very specific setting in a mining town in Nova Scotia. They actually filmed it in an abandoned mine, the scenes that are in the mine, because the killer is haunting a mine. But I love the sense of place. I love the scenes they have. They have a lot of interesting settings. There's the laundromat. There's a union hall where a lot of it takes place in. They have a party in the union hall. The bar is really cool. A lot of wood paneling, mirrors. Characters are playing shuffleboard.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everybody is drinking Moosehead beer, which is one of my favorite instances of product placement in the movie.
I noticed that a lot, but I did notice one guy drink a Schlitz.
Yes, I also noticed one Schlitz.
Yep.
Most everyone is drinking Moosehead. Huge product placement. Moosehead, of course, is an East Coast brewery. I love when they're at the bar and behind the creepy bartender, there's the huge neon Moosehead logo. Everybody on the bar has bottles of Moosehead.
Yeah.
At the tables are littered with bottles of Moosehead.
Oh yeah.
And the waitress comes up to the table and says, "Okay, who ordered the Moosehead?" They all did. Henrietta, the virgin bartender, they all ordered the Mooseheads. But I just love it. Some of the characters, including the main character TJ, have these great East Coast accents.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely, almost like an Irish brogue. Wonderful East Coast accents. Not a reason for liking a movie, but kind of it gives you a sense of place. What other settings? Oh, there's a scene that takes place in a car lot, a lot of broken cars. Cool setting, and they're talking about their kind of broken down lives. This is not a movie that's about teenagers, like a lot of slasher movies. It's about working class people who are in their mid-20s, and of course, the hero is somebody who left to the West. He went out west in search of work, and now he's come back to town. Because he couldn't find the life he wanted out west. His girlfriend is with his best friend. The kind of situation that I think 70% of guys in the East Coast can identify with. But it gives it a good working class depth to the character identification, which is a little different from the usual high school age slasher crowd. I really like the guy who plays TJ. I like most of the actors. The fat guy with the mustache is
that
great.
guy was my favorite one.
He's great. I love the brunette girl. She's really good too. She's really funny. Yeah, it's just every setting is really awesome. The mine is great. These people are literally digging their lives into the ground, and we go down to the ground where the horror lurks, and they actually filmed these scenes in the mine, and it shows. It feels like a mine. It's moist. It's sinister, and really cool kills too.
There was a lot of good ones. I can't remember my favorite one. Was there an eye that popped out?
Yeah, there's a great one where with the pickaxe, since the murderer is dressed in mining gear and uses the pickaxe for lots of them, where he sends the pickaxe up beneath a guy's jaw.
Yes,
and pokes his eye out.
That's
from
beneath. Yeah.
Oh, great effects, great stuff. Cool song too. In the end credits, I like the song. Yeah, the characters are all lovable. They're all identifiable.
The one chick pissed me off. The one who kept on saying, "I can't do it. I can't do it." It's like, climb the fucking ladder. What are you doing?
She is wearing heels, and she's in a slippery ladder. But she's in a slippery, moist ladder in a mine.
It was funny that they tried so hard to get to the top of the ladder. Dead guy, go back down.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to claw out of this place they're trapped in. Great stuff. If there's anything that I'm a little bit hesitant about it, is that I don't necessarily love the killer reveal at the end.
No, the end
was maybe a little unearned in that it didn't really connect with the overarching themes of it. But that's a minor complaint. The whole movie, mostly from start to finish, I think is just a wonderful movie.
I love that movie. So my number 2.
Right. Yeah, what you got?
My favorite nightmare.
Oh,
you know what it is?
I'm gonna say Dream Warriors.
Number 3.
Oh yeah, that's Dream Warriors. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
so good.
Yeah.
So I like number 1 a lot, and after number 1, number 2 I think is complete garbage from start to finish. But number 3 is just there's so many good scenes, so many good characters.
Yeah. Cool effects too. Like there's really weird shit going on.
The Freddy worm is great.
Oh,
I fucking love the Freddy worm.
Yeah,
and the characters that all have their each little superpower when they get into Dream World to fight him. I don't know. It's so much better than any of the other ones.
Yeah, it goes in a whole different direction.
It does a backstory of actually who Freddy is. Like, why is he this person? Like, a million mental patients raped one woman, and that was a son that came out, or something like that. You remember this?
Yeah, something like that.
It was something very silly like that. Like, and there's so many cool scenes in this one. The stop motion Freddy, and it turned into then the marionette death, which is like my favorite death in this movie, where Freddy like slits his wrists or whatever. It was like holding tendons with his gloves, and he made the guy jump off the building.
The faces on the pizza was nightmare fuel for me too.
Oh, that was good. The chick who had her head like impaled in the TV. The variety of kills in this one is so much better than every other Freddy. And they bring back the final girl from number 1 and her dad. John Saxon's great in this movie.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, my number 2, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I thought it was a fun, like, it was a spoof, but not going the scary movie route of it just being like references. Like, it's not just a bunch of other movies cobbled together with a joint. And it's like,
Right.
Get it? They're high. And it's also this movie. It's like, no, that's not a joke. But I found it genuinely endearing. It has problems, of course. It's got like the villain is obnoxious more than he is villainous. But I found the leads genuinely endearing, and I had to put it high up there. It probably isn't like I'm sure I actually objectively and subjectively, I think all the other movies on this list are better than it. but it had at least a few moments that I did genuinely laugh out loud, which I do make mental note of. When something actually makes me like just guffaw completely outwardly, it has a special place, and Tucker and Dale versus Evil did that to me. It's a simple, silly movie, but I kind of put it higher on the list because it's one that deserves a bit more traction than it has some, but it deserves a bit more. So this is me putting good karma into the world.
All right, I guess it's time to unveil our numbers 1. I have a feeling where you're going to be in number 1. Not sure.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious at this point.
So my number 1. Do you know where I'm going with number 1?
I don't. Because you have a Halloween already, you have a Friday.
So it's already come up. My number 1 is Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, wow. That's my number 10.
I absolutely love this movie.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about it. I like the vibe. I like the characters. I like the actors. I like the costumes. But also the ending, in addition to being an iconic, unforgettable, shocking ending, also does something really amazing with the slasher movie mythology. There's, I guess I don't want to go too far into spoilers, but there's a uniting of the two elements. The way the movie resolves and combines the repressed hero with the sexually tormented slasher is brilliant and fucked up in a way that deepens the myth of these psychosexual dreams awoken by inadequate gender roles and unfair sexual expectations that is going on in all these slasher movies. And here we have them kind of coming together, these two elements dovetailing together in one horrific way. It just feels like it goes deeper and harder into the mythology than other slasher movies do. I just think the ending, in addition to being shocking, is mythically enormously powerful, and that's what puts it at my number 1 greatest slasher movie.
So I kind of cheated here.
Oh,
I have a 1A and 1B.
okay, do tell.
Just because, like, it's Halloween 1 and 2.
Okay,
Because they're basically one movie.
right.
Like, you can't ever sit down and be like, which Halloween do I want to watch tonight? You'll never just say Halloween 2. You gotta say Halloween 1 and 2. Right? You're not gonna just watch Halloween 2 by itself.
But you can watch just Halloween 1 by itself.
You can.
Yeah.
But not Halloween 2 by itself.
No.
So I kind of added it to my number 1.
Yeah, it is cool as shit that they have a sequel that starts the minute the first movie ends.
Yeah.
With no breathing room whatsoever in between the same night, continuing the same storyline right where it left off. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of cheated there. Otherwise, Halloween 2 would have been number 2 on my list. So I like Halloween 2 about the same as Halloween 1. It's a little bit different, but I felt number 2 was a little bit creepier than number 1.
The hospital setting is really cool.
I kind of felt bad putting 1 and 2 together. Like, you're not going to watch Waterworld and start it at fucking 90 minutes in and be like, all right.
Why the hell is Waterworld the point of comparison? You could have just said,
well, because it's 3 hours long, like the same length as Halloween 1 and 2.
All right.
So you're never, and because when you rented it, it came in 2 VHS tapes.
Okay.
You'll never be like, I feel like watching Waterworld, but only the second half. That'll never happen. Never. Right?
Fair enough. It would never happen. In fact, I reckon Waterworld would never happen.
Yeah.
My number 1 we discussed thoroughly. It's Halloween. It's the king to me. It defined the genre. It didn't invent it.
I'll finish my drink.
Because, I mean, I know, well, there's always arguments about where it started. A lot of people say Black Christmas, which I was kind of surprised to not hear. I do love Black Christmas too, but I had to put together guilty pleasures mainly on my list. I had to throw in stuff that it's like, this film I will repeat watch. And
that's what I did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
It's the way to go.
All right, this was super fun. I think we're going to wrap things up here on the first episode of Mind Over Splatter. I'm Dylan. Thanks, Sheldon and Will. I'm going to get back to crushing these Moosehead loggers. Have a great night, everyone. Keep looking behind you.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on and on. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. 20 years came and went, and everyone spent the 14th.
Tell me, will it be sweet New Year's Eve, or do I feel a New Year's Eve? Shall we dance to the music, toast the past, watch the honey heartbeat journey of the hourglass?
Can you just send me a clip of you naked from Father's Day? No, never mind. Forget that. Edit that out.
The answer is maybe.
Oh.